What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDoWorkHereLady. Alright, this story's called Mistaken Drill Sergeant. Preface: I have exclusively lurked on Reddit until I found this subreddit and I realized I had a perfect story. Additionally, I would say that I am no longer in the army and neither is Drill Sergeant, I'm assuming, Richard. So, back in around 2015, 2016, I was the XO, for those unfamiliar with army terms, executive officer, second in command, but really just an overgrown office manager, usually a first lieutenant, for a basic training company at Fort Jackson. I was new to the company when this happened, having arrived about a week earlier. Well, one of our drill sergeants had been on leave at the time and had just gotten back that day, so had never met or seen me. How our buildings were organized: the cadre, I'm assuming cadre, parking lot was off to the east of the building, then our company's office was on the north side of the building, so I had to walk across the company-covered training area to get to it. I come back from lunch one day and I'm walking to the office. The trainees are in their platoon areas cleaning their weapons with a drill sergeant or two watching over them. So I'm not really paying it much mind when I hear a drill sergeant behind me yell, "Hey, trainee! Where the hell is your battle buddy?" In the Army, all trainees in basic training are required to travel with another trainee of the same gender known as your battle buddy. Basically, you are not allowed to go more than an arm's reach away from someone else, except like on details or using the bathroom. Like I said, I wasn't paying much attention because I didn't think he was talking to me. Next thing I know, I hear it behind me closer as he goes, "Hey, guy, I'm talking to you. Where the hell are you going? Start freaking pushing." I then realize that he is actually talking to me. See, I was pretty young at the time, like 23, 24, and barely 5'7", still am. As an officer and not a drill sergeant, I also didn't wear the distinctive campaign hat or the badge that drill sergeants wear, so it's pretty easy to confuse it from behind. What I did wear, however, was the black bar on my chest that shows my rank as a first lieutenant. So when I turned, he saw it and I immediately could see him deflate. For those unaware, even though NCOs are the ones who really run the army, officers are still higher ranked. As he knew he was an E5 at the time too, it was by quite a bit. I just say, "Oh, hey Drill Sergeant Richard, glad to meet you. I'm First Lieutenant OP." He just kinda went, "Yes, sir, nice to meet you. Sorry about that." I smiled as it was just an honest mistake and was honestly pretty funny. I did also notice that the trainees, most of whom did know me, were looking, and some were even smiling at the situation now. So to diffuse the awkward situation and cover the drill sergeant a bit, I say, "However, Drill Sergeant, I did notice that I walked onto the CTA and none of your trainees called attention. Might want to fix that." He kinda smiled back and turned around to start smoking the dog crap out of him. We would go on to laugh about it with the other drill sergeants and the first sergeant later that day, and it became a running joke to call me Lieutenant Trainee. If Drill Sergeant Richard is on Reddit and sees this, I want you to know that I still think about it and laugh today, and you should shoot me a message. That was pretty cool. I enjoyed, Drill Sergeant being put in his place, literally. I can imagine a lot of people watching that happen were enjoying themselves. That was until you called them out for not calling attention. Funny stuff. Alright, this story's called I'm Just Delivering Your Christmas Tree. Okay, with Christmas coming, I thought I would share a story about my dad's adventure at a house of female entertainment. My dad has always been a bit of a free spirit and was always looking for something interesting to do. One thing that captured his heart was Christmas trees. In particular, taking Christmas trees to Florida and selling them. So for several years, come October, he would arrange for a couple of trailers of good Nova Scotian trees to be shipped to Florida, and just before the American Thanksgiving, he would drive down and take up residence for 6 weeks selling his trees. He quickly became known as the crazy Canadian who sold trees in flip-flops and t-shirts while the locals were bundled in their winter coats, hats, and mittens, going on about how cold it was. Since he had absolutely gorgeous trees and didn't expect people people to pay with their firstborn child, his lot became so popular he had to add a third load of trees halfway through his season. So one final day, Dad is standing in his lot talking trees, and a very beautiful, well-dressed lady came up to him asking about buying a tree. What was the tallest tree in his lot and how much was it? Dad showed her his best tree, over 20 feet, and told her the price, $75. What? $75 for a 20-foot Nova Scotia fir, I'm assuming. That's a really good price, because I looked it up and it's like freaking $400, $300 for a 7-foot tree. That's crazy. The lady smiled and asked him if she paid an extra $100, would he please bring it to her address that afternoon and set it up for her. No problem. Later that afternoon, Dad left his helper in charge of the lot and drove the tree over to a very genteel neighborhood. Dad pulled up in his pickup, knocked on the door, and was invited in by a very pretty girl who left to get the lady. Lady came, showed Dad where the tree was supposed to go, and left him to his devices. So keep in mind, Dad is a small town guy, a country boy. Houses of entertainment just weren't in his lexicon. He brought the tree in and went about setting it up, and a pretty girl walked by and smiled at him. Dad smiled back, went out to get something from his truck, came back. Another girl walked by and smiled at him. After the 5th or 6th girl, Dad started noticing that their clothing was very minimal. Very minimal. Dad started to blush, but kept his eyes firmly on the tree. Sure he did. Eventually, he got it set up nice and straight, as they'd like. Anchored to the wall. Okay, that's a little while. And was packing up to go when the lady came back into the room. After admiring the tree and Dad's handiwork, she paid him, then offered him the services of one of her girls. Dad gulped, chuckled nervously, and stammered, "I'm just here for the tree, ma'am," and bolted for the safety of his truck. Funny thing, after that, the lady came back every year for a tree, and Dad set it up for her. She never offered services again, though. Oh, that's what he told you guys, right? Kind of like how, you find a bag of $30,000 in the woods or something, and wow, look at you, a local hero, good Samaritan for turning in $5,000. Yeah, that's right, buddy. Keep the family thinking, hell yeah, daddy's pulling in $5,000 when you know you're getting another 25 from them late. Okay, I'm done with the euphemisms. I'm kidding. I'm sure Dad was very faithful. I just like to joke. Don't cheat on your wives or spouses in general, guys. This story's called, "You Look Like You're 16. What makes you think you know anything about beer?" So this happened about a year and a half ago when I was a bartender at a high-end restaurant. This isn't all verbatim, but the exchange is as good as I can remember it. I've been working at this place for over a year and had worked my way up to shift supervisor/bar manager and was 19. One day I was sat up at the bar drinking with some of our regulars and a few colleagues that had the afternoon off, and a man came up to the bar to order. There was only one bartender working, as it was after the Sunday lunch rush and it was always quiet by that point. This bartender was new and I just handed the shift over to him. He was capable of running the shift on his own, but hadn't quite learned the drinks menu. The gent that had just walked in to order started asking about the beers in a really snobbish manner, such as, "What are your beers?" I don't know what that is. "Which lager is the most crisp?" And, "Do you have any really hoppy lagers?" Basically, he was asking questions about any type of beer possible just to be complicated and sound like he knew his stuff. No one really comes in asking those types of questions if they don't have a specific flavor profile in mind. E.g., you only typically ask about I don't know what that is. Beers if you want a weedy beer. You only ask about crisp beers if you want a refreshing lager. And only ask about hoppy lagers if you're into IPAs, which are Indian Pale Ales. See, I know something. Anyway, I overheard this and offered my own guidance as the poor new recruit was looking at me like a deer in headlights. I just ran through the menu and suggested the correct drinks for his questions, to which he just exhaled through his nose and outright said, "You're just 16 and shouldn't even be drinking here. What makes you think you know about beers?" I'm a polite person, and I'm really not a fan of unnecessary conflict, so I didn't offer any wisecracks or smugness. I just told him, "I heard you asking some pretty tough questions, and new recruit's name started last week. I thought I'd help out as I'm off shift, and it's a good training point for him as I'm his manager." To which he joked about the new starter being old enough to be my dad. I'm not sure what he was trying to gain from throwing weak insults at a stranger, but my mind switched into work mode and I just started listing off drinks on our menu like I was advertising half the breweries in Europe. I asked what flavor profiles he was after, if he wanted a light ale or a heavy lager, a high ABV or low. If he was looking to eat, then perhaps one of the wines would be better suited if a heavy beer is preferred, as the special was fish. I finished off with a new bartender's name. "Can you pop staff discount for this gent? It'd be nice to see him back here when I'm working." Proceeded to give him my till and walk him through the steps to apply it. Lo and behold, this bloke orders a pint of Carling because all the fancy beers were way too expensive. Imagine that. Trying to show off to a bartender that you know more than them and then ordering the cheapest beer on tap. I don't miss these types of guests one bit. Oh man, okay, what is a word for people like that? Just pretentious? But like pretentious has that sort of connotation to where they're kind of able to put their money where their mouth is. This guy, well, he was all talk and no buck. Get it? No bark. Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. All talk and no bark? It's all bark and no bite, you dummy. And you're not the dummy, I'm the dummy. And also you if you didn't call it out. So haha, suckers, I'm taking you down with me. Down this cliff of rapidly descending IQ numbers, cause we are dropping. This story's called, "I Called the Mayor Useless in Front of His Daughter." I don't know if this story quite fits in this sub, but so in my country, there are some upcoming parliament elections, and one man who owns a big printing and marketing company, whom I've known for a long time, calls me and says he wants me to start working on video editing, and my first job in there would be to help on the campaign for a certain candidate. To be clear, I hate politics, and I have some big personal issues with that political party, which single-handedly destroyed the whole country. But I'm a bimbo and needed that work and that money, so I accepted. You sold your soul! I'm kidding. Get that back, boo. I started working there. The work was good. I've been giving my best. I've met the candidate, a young lady, also an 18-year-old who is her personal photographer. I'm confused as to what that sentence is saying. You met the candidate, who is a young lady who is also her 18-year-old photographer? I'm confused. One day after 1.5 weeks of working there, me, my boss's wife, and the young photographer were in the office. We were watching at some material to start making a video with it. Suddenly, they start complaining about some few people close to the mayor of the city for being useless. And I say, it's known that that person's useless. Anyone related to that mayor is useless, including the mayor. My boss and his wife are looking at me with big eyes with their mouths shut, but their faces say, "Oh, don't you dare." I say, "What happens?" And then my boss says, "She is mayor's name, daughter." I was shocked for a second and then started laughing, and they all started laughing at me. I apologized and pat this girl's head, but she had that "I'll kill you" face on there. Nothing happened and we didn't talk about it again, except for like 3 weeks later when I was making a video about a reopening for a rehabbed hospital, which was hosted by the mayor, and this girl says to me, "You see, my dad is not useless." So they don't know English or what Reddit is, but I really don't like that mayor. We all know he's there because of his connections with the high corrupt figures in the main government. So I'm glad I wasn't fired, but I have no regrets. Some people are angry about the head pat. She didn't mind it, and that was not the issue. In our culture, we are very friendly by default to each other, and being touchy is not weird at all. That girl and I moved on from that and ended up getting along. Hey, that's so cool. That's really nice. I like friendship. I'm glad you didn't. I was gonna make a. There's so many jokes I could make about politicians and people winding up with multiple self-inflicted gunshot wounds to the back of their head. You know, like, just, okay, be glad that wasn't blank. There we go. Boom. If you know, you know. If you don't know, well, good. I'm kidding. Stay woke, peeps.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.